Hello, ladies. You know, I feel like this is a real social interaction. It's like I really know you and know you're watching, and I feel connected to you socially. And it just so happens that today's topic is what happens socially at menopause. This is the last video in the WHAM series. WHAM means what happens at menopause. And menopause involves all kinds of things, physically, emotionally, and socially. It's just like puberty. Don't you remember when your social life changed at puberty? Before puberty, you loved being with your parents. You thought they were cool. But when puberty hit, you thought they were creepy. They embarrassed you. Did you ever ask your parents to drop you off a block away from where you were going, or to refrain from kissing you at school? Most of us did. Suddenly, you didn't want to even be seen with your parents, and spending time with your friends was more important than spending time with your family. There was a shift in your social needs. Well, guess what? Ha! It happens again at menopause, but the reasons and circumstances are quite different. And this video is all about what happens socially at menopause. This video is important because it could save your relationships. So often, women have no idea why their social interests change at menopause. And not understanding what's going on hurts their relationships. Parents often talk about spending time with their children while the kids still like them. They know that puberty will change all that. They know not to take it personally when their tween finds them embarrassing. But with menopause, when you start behaving in a way that is entirely logical for menopause, no one knows why. It shouldn't be that way. You need to know what to expect. Your friends and relatives need to know what to expect. And if you all know what to expect, your relationships will stay intact. So make sure everyone you know watches this video. In video 142 on what shrinks at menopause, I briefly mentioned a hormone called oxytocin. Well, I'm going to talk about it again because all the stuff that happens socially at menopause is due to oxytocin. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. You know that menopause is a process in which all of your sex hormones decrease. First progesterone, second estrogen, third testosterone. Progesterone is responsible for your ability to nurture a pregnancy. Estrogen is responsible for your female characteristics and well-being. Testosterone is responsible for your sex drive. When I present it that way, you realize immediately how these three hormones have a lot to do with reproduction. But your reproductive role does not begin or end with the actual act of reproduction. There's another hormone that creates bonds between people. It's oxytocin. Oxytocin is glue. It induced you to fall in love with your man in the first place, and it compelled you to meet your children's needs until they were grown. So you can assign different responsibilities to all these hormones, all of which play a part in the reproductive sequence of events that keeps our species alive. If you did that, the sequence would look like this. First, you start producing all three sex hormones during puberty: estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. They make it possible for you to reproduce. Then, oxytocin rises, which makes you fall in love. Of course, when you fall in love, you carry out all the actions that serve to get you pregnant. And while you're pregnant, your oxytocin stays very high. Have you ever wondered why you were in love with your baby before it was born? Pregnant women will do just about anything for the sake of their unborn baby. Why? Because of oxytocin, glue. You know, There is no greater incentive in the world to get women to practice a healthy lifestyle than pregnancy. Pregnant women will discipline themselves for their baby's sake much more than they will for their own sake. And when it comes time for delivery, women will endure whatever is safest for the baby. They'll tolerate pain, pushing for hours, surgery, whatever. That shows you how powerful oxytocin is. And after the baby is born, your primary purpose in life is to take care of the baby. I've warned many a man that his sex life is going to disappear when his wife delivers their child. I tell him it's not because she doesn't like him anymore. It's just that Mother Nature made it so that she's glued to her baby more than she is glued to her man. If she's interested in sex, she might forget about the baby. So Mother Nature has made sure you have no sex drive after having a baby. That always seems to resonate with men. In their minds, sex can make you forget about everything. And that warning from me about the fact that it's all because of Mother Nature goes a long way in saving relationships. And then, the entire time you're raising that baby, you put their needs ahead of your own, don't you? Yep. You do whatever they want to do. You take vacations to places you wouldn't go otherwise. You know, men are just great big kids. So much of what makes your man happy also makes your kids happy. So you go along with the plan to make them all happy. Your oxytocin is the glue. You put up with their shenanigans, their disrespect, and their struggles. You even tolerate the sassiness and eye-rolling that comes with puberty. Why? Because of oxytocin. There is nothing in life that will erase your awareness, change your mind, or galvanize your determination more than something that involves your child. That's Mother Nature's design for survival of the species. So, oxytocin is surging through your body in massive quantities throughout your entire premenstrual life, keeping the whole family intact. So here we have everybody attached to Mom, happy as clams, because she is the glue. You know, men have it too. They have oxytocin release as a result of just being around you and the kids. You know, I was watching Grey's Anatomy once. I don't watch much TV. I hardly even know what's on the TV, and I don't recognize the names of most TV shows. But I like Grey's Anatomy. The social lives of the characters are completely make-believe. You don't have a social life during residency, and you hardly have one after that. But I love the medicine. And my favorite character is Miranda. She's that short black woman. I love everything about her. And on one show, she said something that had me rolling. One of the other characters asked her something about being a parent. And Miranda has responded with, "You ever heard of the black lace weaver spider? It lays 50 to 100 eggs. At a certain age, the mother taps her web and calls the eggs to her. They swarm her, stab into her with their straw-like stingers, and the mother's innards liquefy. Then they suck her up like a milkshake for their nourishment. After that, they go on with their lives, leaving her a dead husk. That's parenting." When she said that, I just howled, because that describes the effect of oxytocin so well. All that oxytocin is what keeps you focused on keeping your children healthy and happy at your own expense, literally and figuratively. Of course, if you do a good job of parenting, your kids grow up and don't need you anymore. You spend your entire adult life creating a nice nest for them, but then you launch them from the nest. And that's just about the time you hit menopause. Shocking, isn't it? Of course, if you had children late in your reproductive life, it could well be the case that you have both menopause and puberty going on at the same time in your nest. And if that's the case, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. All I can recommend for that is therapy, meditation, prayer, tranquilizers. But at some point, your role as a doting, hovering, protective mama bear ends. And at about that same time, poof, the oxytocin disappears. When you think about it logically, it makes perfect sense. You don't need the oxytocin anymore. It's already served its purpose. Its purpose was to put your children ahead of yourself. It was there so that you would do anything to make them happy, even if it made you miserable. You'd do anything to protect them. You'd even die for them. And you made sure their dad was there for them too. Well, your loss of oxytocin marks the time when you're supposed to start living for yourself. It's when you stop focusing on everyone else, caring what everyone else wants, and jumping through hoops for everyone else. Many of you have written comments about not knowing what's wrong with you. You say that you just don't want to do social things anymore. You prefer to stay home and to be alone. One woman lamented the fact that she doesn't feel compelled or even excited to put up holiday decorations anymore. And she felt a little guilty, but she couldn't understand why the guilt didn't force her to do it anyway like it used to. And I responded that she was normal. It's all a direct result of oxytocin loss. In video 66, I talked about menopause and divorce, and I told you that statistically, 65% of divorces at the time of menopause are due to the woman's desire for independence, and that's because of oxytocin loss. Most women who divorce at the time of menopause do not remarry. The last thing they want is to get tied down with another man. They aren't just bored with their current spouse. They aren't just interested in cavorting with a different man. They're just done with having the bonds of marriage, period. At menopause, you want to detach. Just think of all the things that are tied in with bonding. They include a lot of things other than falling in love and cuddling. Every relationship in your life requires some degree of bonding, and menopause entails loosening those bonds. So it takes many different forms. You don't care what everyone else wants to do. You aren't willing to forfeit your preferences for the sake of everyone else. You don't want to spend as much time with others. You don't bear the responsibility of solving everyone's problems. You pull away from toxic relationships. You don't maintain as many friendships. And you don't try to make new friends. You find it very easy to say no. And these are all normal behaviors. They are essentially the very same things that your kids do to you when they go through puberty. So don't beat yourself up. You're just responding in accordance with your hormones, or lack thereof. The problem is that society doesn't talk about the social consequences of menopause like they do about puberty. If they did, your husband would say, I'm going to make sure I do whatever it takes to make her want to stay married to me. And your kids would say, when she stops solving all my problems for me, I'm going to just remember how many she fixed. And your friends would say, I don't take it personally if she can't find time to see me as much. See, they would get it. As it stands now, with no education about this, people think you're depressed or something. Like I said at the beginning, get them to watch this video. It will preserve your relationships to the extent that you want to preserve them. So the summary is that you can blame all your issues on the loss of oxytocin. Oh, and unlike estrogen, there is no replacement for oxytocin. It's your turn, time to do what you want to do. If you don't know it already, you should know that I write articles on menopause. and I make them fun. And I wrote one called Mama Comes Unglued, and it's all about this. And you can find it and dozens of others on my website, menopausetailor.me. They're free. And you'd be surprised at how much you can learn by just reading my articles. Of course, you'll probably laugh a little bit too. So, this concludes our Wham! Series. If you missed any of these, here's a list of the topics I covered in videos 141 through 150, which is this one. What dries up at menopause? What shrinks at menopause? What grows at menopause? What sags at menopause? What gets harder at menopause? What appears at menopause? What disappears at menopause? What gets better at menopause? What gets worse at menopause? And what happens socially at menopause? Alrighty, that does it. There's your Wham! Series. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in a week. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon.